RVing for Newbies, RV Mentor. We're starting a new series on safety. This is episode 1. We're going to discuss propane.
RV Mentor, RVing for Newbies, ethics disclaimer. All the tools being used, the items being installed or reviewed were purchased by RV Mentor. The only exceptions will be denoted in the next slide in this video, giving the name of the manufacturer, the items, and how they were acquired, donated, etc. The things stated in this video are the opinions of RV Mentor and are just that, opinions, but are based on 13 years of being an RV owner and being an RV inspector. Let's get on with the video.
You've got 2 types of propane tanks that we're going to talk about today. The first one is your DOT, Department of Transportation tank. That is known as a portable tank, portable being relative. They come in 20-pound, 30-pound, and 40-pound versions. The next type we have is an ASME tank. Those are basically permanent. They're mounted to like a Class A or a Class C RV, and you have to drive somewhere to get them filled up, or you have to have somebody come to your place to fill them up.
On a travel trailer or a fifth wheel, you'll usually find these 30-pounders. On a travel trailer, probably closer, you'll find the 20s, although you will find the 30s in certain cases. They usually will sit on a travel trailer on the tongue, on the front part of your travel trailer. Sometimes they're covered with plastic, sometimes they're not, and we'll talk about that, a plastic cover. What we've got here with the 30-pound, usually you'll find these on a fifth wheel, and they're usually in cabinets. There's sometimes 2 of them, one on each side near the front or what would be the tongue of the fifth wheel. So real quick, let's talk about expiration dates. On these guys, on these little portable tanks, let's take a look here up close. This one is 0504. What that means is May of 04 is when this was manufactured. It has a 10-year life. So looking at that, of May of 04 means in May of 2014, this tank technically expired. Now, is it your responsibility to have to get this thing recertified? Nah, especially with a 20-pounder. You can take this to the gas station, swap it out. Nobody's going to really pay attention because none of those guys are going to look at the expiration dates. Now, your 30-pounder. Let's take a look and see if we can find the date on the collar on this one. Let's look around over here. Here we go. So on the collar on this one, it looks like it's 0502, which means in 2012 this bad boy is expired. Now it becomes a bit more of a challenge trying to get a 30-pounder replaced at a propane place. Theoretically, if they're checking the date on it, they should not refill it. Alright? But you'll find some places that will recertify them for you for relatively cheap, and then put a recertified date on there, stamped on to the collar.
If you look inside my container on my Class C, this is my propane tank on my Class C. It is a fixed tank, also known as an ASME tank. There's no real expiration date on these since they're fixed, but you want to look at the brackets. Make sure they're not rusting away and the whole tank's going to fall off of your RV. One of your main safety checks for that. Behind the white thing is the regulator. Your on-off switch is there. Your fill is behind the yellow cap on this one. You remove the yellow cap, they will fill the propane tank. That is also known as your fill port. To the right of that is a device that is used when they're filling it to make sure they don't go over 80% of filling the tank, because that's the limit it should be.
Alright, so what we're going to do here is we are going to spray a little bit of butane, because this detector deals with natural gas, propane, and butane. And we're going to do just a little bit. We're going to turn this on, and then we're going to see to make sure the detector works. So we'll flip this to... Notice, that did not take long. All it took was one little squirt, and it says, holy moly, I got propane, I got butane. Let's wave it off. So, propane, butane, those are all heavier than air. As you can see, it's still going up. It's extremely sensitive. This has been turned off. Alright. Since it's heavier than air, it will hug to the ground. And we'll talk a little bit about why that is and why your propane detector is closer to the floor. So let's try this one more time. We'll turn this on. It's doing nothing at this point, even though I've turned it on, and then we'll spray it. Just a tiny little spray is all it took before it decided it was going to go off. So now we know the detector is working correctly. And it comes back down. And it's dissipated. So now let's go take a look at our propane detector. I have one that's on the floor over here since propane's heavier than air, as we mentioned before. And let's see if we can set that one off. So let's take a look over here. Under here, you press the test button on it, it will go off. So the question is, how much propane is it going to take to set this guy off? Looks like it only worked. There we go. Took it a bit before it threw propane error. Let's blow some air here. Wave off the butane. But that's how I go about testing it. And press the button to silence it. And we're good. I lift off the pieces, parts to my stove just to see if I got any leaking here. Right? Shouldn't be, everybody's turned off, so there shouldn't be any propane leaking here. Now remember, propane's heavier than air. So check the bottom first, because that's probably where it'll be. And there's my regulator. Check the bottom. Check here, check here. Alright. Doesn't sound like we got anything here going on. That's for checking your tank, if you got an onboard tank like in my Class C. Let's take a peek at the fridge. We're going to take this off. My propane detector. Here's my propane line. Since my fridge runs on propane or electric, I always check that. And we've got nothing going on here. Alright, water heater. My water heater runs on propane too. Let's take a peek in here. Okay, so here's my propane lines. Check the bottom, of course. Check any place here for where might be leaking propane. And we got nothing there. The other place you got propane in your furnace. I am not going to open that up right now. But you can see there are multiple screws. You can take that off. You can stick the probe in there. If you don't have a screen like I do, you might be able to slip the probe in through the exhaust port. But definitely go and check that also. Now, the only other place you might want to check is if you've got lines that run underneath your RV. Now, do you want to climb underneath there? That is your call as to whether you want to or not. I do it about once a year just to climb underneath with the detector, run it up and down the lines, and if I don't hear anything, I know we probably don't have a leak. Okay, here's our 30-pound tank again, where we're checking for any leaks. And our 20-pound tank, where we're checking for any leaks. Doesn't seem to be any there. But let's simulate one. Let's take a look at the 30-gallon tank. Let's see if we have a leak of any sort here. Yeah, so somewhere this bad boy is not connecting right. There's at least a burst of propane. So that bad boy is leaking. You can hear it coming. You can hear the detector. So somewhere in this this extension tube is definitely a problem. Okay, so lifetime. When do these guys need to be replaced, these propane detectors? And this one's a propane carbon monoxide detector. Most of them are 3 to 5 years. You can usually pop those guys open and see what their born on date is. Most of them will be beeping, and you can see a blog post on what is this beeping in my RV on my website, rvmentor.com. And a lot of times propane detectors will beep when they're at end of life. They will basically scream when they're detecting propane, and they'll also beep when they get battery low voltage. So if you walk into your RV and haven't had it plugged into electricity in a couple of weeks and you hear beeping, it's probably because the battery is low and the propane detector is letting you know that. Other things that will set off propane detectors, of course, propane, butane. If you use like PAM for spraying like a pan to make it like non-stick when you're cooking something, a lot of those have propellants in them that'll set them off. Dog farts, amazingly, will set off a propane detector. So that pretty much covers propane, I think. If we're missing anything, we'll fill in the blanks. And we will see you on the next safety video, which I believe we're going to be covering fire next. Fire in an RV. Scary stuff. And what you need to do to make sure that your family will be safe in the event something goes bad.